Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello. This is Che.
This is Corey.
And this is the Next Time On Podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, it's like if Johnny and Barton Blaze decided to make a hack podcast about comic books, movies, and all things nerdy instead of a hack carny show where they slowly jump through fire. Is that fair, Corey?
Yeah, that's fair.
As always, I have to ask you, which one of us is Johnny, which one of us is Barton?
I honestly would rather be Barton right now.
Yeah, it's fair.
Dead on the ground and half burned. How did he even die? Okay, please, I'm sorry.
It is actually, we won't be getting to that, but it's one of the scenes where I'm like, so that guy didn't die from like being burnt alive because he's not on fire. He didn't die from internal or like, he's not really that injured. He just is dead. Cool.
He just kind of fell over in the fire and he's like, hey, he's dead. And I'm like, okay.
If you are wondering what we're talking about today, we are doing Ghost Rider, the Bad Movie Club. Before we get to all of that, a couple points of business, of course, as always. If you have not already, please go follow the podcast all over the place. Don't forget to subscribe on all your podcast platforms. Also, you can follow us at Twitter and Instagram at Next Time On Pod. And you can find all of our archived writing and future and past podcasts at nexttimeon.net. And if you are not watching the YouTube channel, go check it out. The link is in the description below. If you are watching the YouTube channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe you can suggest the next movie you want to see. Or not the next movie, because we have picked out a real banger for you. But the one after that, we'll take some suggestions because we're running low. Because Corey, for some reason, refuses to watch Sucker Punch. I don't really know why.
That movie hurt me.
I have a very personal story about Sucker Punch that I won't even tell on the podcast, but remind me, Corey, to tell you about my Sucker Punch story.
I think Sucker Punch is one of those, like, to me, like the Last Airbender Free Guy situations where that movie just made me so mad that I had to go do something with my energy.
I don't think it's as bad as the Last Airbender. I think that's unfair on Sucker Punch. Yeah.
You're right. I mean, the Last Airbender.
The Last Airbender is like an abomination against like multiple
it is,
cultures.
but at least I could follow what was happening in Last Airbender, and I wasn't.
Fair.
It didn't end on a lobotomy.
Yeah.
From what part of that trailer told me that movie was going to be anything like what it was going to be?
Yeah, it's not great. But we will not be talking about Sucker Punch next time. We're going to renounce the next movie at the end. But like I said, today we're talking about Ghost Rider. And if you are reading along,
Which you should be.
Yeah, you should be. Don't forget to go check out, if you missed it, we had a great conversation about Barry Windsor Smith's Monster, my favorite book from last year, on our last book club podcast. You can find that in your RSS feed and on the website. Next up, book club for next month is going to be Miss Marvel, Volume 1 by G. Willow Wilson, in celebration of the TV show and obviously the coming The Marvels movie, which we're really excited for, obviously. So
yeah, and I think we never got around to talking about the finale for Miss Marvel's because I actually just got caught up the other day.
We might do a little preview for when the movie's coming out. So
yeah, but I recommend the series if you guys ever gave that a shot. It was very fun, good, solid, fun 6 episodes. I think I watched the final 5 episodes and just like straight up in a row, and I had a good time.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, like Corey said, it's definitely worth checking out.
It's a lot of fun.
And I think we'll have some real bearing on this Marvel's movie coming, so worth
Absolutely.
watching if you're a canon head like us. But let's get down to business.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm
Are
sorry.
you shaking your head at canon head?
Yeah, I'm shaking. Don't ever call me a canon head again.
Canon head's great. I just made it up right now, and I'm sticking with it.
I don't like it.
I'm gonna make some canon head TV shirts. TV shirts. Wow, just t-shirts. All right, Ghost Rider. So the question is, what the fuck is this movie? 2007, written and directed. No, well, that's the thing. 2007, one of the greatest, if not arguably the greatest movie year in American movie history. And slap dab in the middle of it is this abomination of a comic book movie. Written and directed by Mark Steven Johnson, who the previous year, I think in 2006, brought us, no, not quite. 2003 brought us Daredevil, a movie that we've already done on this podcast. We haven't talked about this. Quickly, is this better or worse than Daredevil?
That's rough.
It's close, I think.
It is, I think I gotta say this is worse than Daredevil because Nicolas Cage isn't Nicolas Cagey enough to be enjoyable in it.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you on that. It's definitely better than Elektra, that's for sure. But like I said before, 2007, an absolute classic. I think we talked about this year before. It has some of the greatest American movies of all time, and also Ghost Rider. So
See, I just kind of like blend together. This is like I meant when I said the dark time, I mean more like those action movie.
dark
era.
time for comic book movies for sure. This was
That's
like
what I mean.
the worst it got for comic movies, and then 2009, Iron Man came out, and it all turned around.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm definitely agree with you there. Mark Steven Johnson written and directed this. Also, like I said, Daredevil now is like in the business of making bad Netflix rom-coms that I don't think anybody actually watches. Also, so just not really related, but saw this on his IMDb, found it very strange. It has a screenwriting credit on Christopher Robin, the Ewan McGregor movie from a few years ago. So there's that, which is weird. This movie is starring Wes Bentley, Sam Elliott, Donald Logue, Peter Fonda, Eva Mendes, and of course, the titular character is played by one Nicolas Cage in, I think, arguably the worst superhero casting ever.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on that one.
And I don't even dislike Nicolas Cage. He just doesn't make
Yeah, I
any
feel
sense
like-
to be Johnny Blaze at all.
I feel like you probably could fit Nicolas Cage in doing some kind of like insane type of character, but they're like, yeah, no, he's gonna be like the edgy biker character, and like why? And they didn't even make him edgy. They made him
He's
like
not
a
even edgy.
country
He's not
guy
even
for
that edgy. That's the thing. He's
Yeah.
like really nice.
Because I mean, if anything, like this character should be like 2007. This character should be like this is like for Hot Topic kids, or like that whole like we wear too much black and it's spiky. Shouldn't we like this character doesn't seem to fit the whole like biker gang aesthetic.
The
I mean,
only
like,
person
listen-
in this movie that knows what kind of movie they're in is Rebel Wilson.
Oh my god, that was her.
Yeah. One of my favorite cameos in all time because her shirt says "I leave bite marks," which is a wild thing to put in a movie, presumably for children.
I mean, there's like there's many murders in this movie. I really can't say
Yeah,
that this is for children.
I think it's still technically it was marketed to kids.
I don't know. I think when the devil's involved, it's really hard to market towards children. But you know,
Fair enough. All right,
that didn't stop me from seeing this in theaters. So who fucking knows?
I don't remember if I saw this in theaters. We definitely saw this.
definitely-
I definitely saw this as a kid, and I saw the second one in theaters for sure. So there is that.
So
But I
I'm
can't
actually kind
remember
of
if I
wondering
saw
about
this
this
one.
before we continue. So Iron Man came out in 2008. I think honestly, this movie, Fantastic Four and Spider-Man 3, made me not go see Iron Man in theaters. I think Iron Man, the first one, is the only MCU movie I never saw in theaters, and I think I think those three movies gave me burnout of the genre.
I think I must have seen Iron Man in theaters.
I
mostly
definitely
'cause,
didn't.
like that was like the time because that was our sophomore year of high school, the summer after, or sorry, summer before our sophomore year of high school. I was just like going to the movie theaters all the time. I think I would have I probably would have seen this on like Thursday midnight show, honestly, the Iron Man. But yeah, I mean the Marvel. This is right in the era right before Marvel grabs hold back of all their movies, and then of course becomes the unstoppable juggernaut that we know them as today. And it is weird to think that we're like 2 years away from this because this movie couldn't be less like an MCU movie. It is self-contained, which is obviously not MCU style. It is poorly casted, which is one of the hallmarks of the MCU is they kind of knock it out of the park almost every time with their casting. And it is obviously trash, which if this was the first MCU movie, we'd be living in a different universe right now.
Absolutely.
So
It's like I just like wonder like what like the conversation is like. Oh, Iron Man's good. Let's try to actually do something from this. And somebody who made Ghost Rider was like, I don't think Ghost Rider was like underneath that Marvel rights umbrella at this.
there is a Marvel title screen at the top though, so it's not.
I mean, there's a Marvel title screen in like X-Men too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, all you need to know is that Ghost Rider is currently streaming on Hulu. Which is owned by Disney, but
And I mean-
is conspicuously not on Disney Plus.
But that's also that's very fair. And Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes has shown up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So there has been another reappearance of Ghost Rider, which was much better in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think I might be the only person who actually watched that show, which is fine.
Is it still going on?
No, it's over.
No, okay.
That show was fun. You just got to get through a very bad first season, just like Parks and Rec.
All right. Let's get down to, so for those of you
do
who
it.
have listened before, we sort of restructured this these bad movie Curse the Rewatch episodes so that they're more targeted, so that we're not spending like an hour talking about the plot of a movie that doesn't deserve us talking about the plot of a movie.
Nope.
So we've broken it down to some categories. I would love to say that we stole it from the Rewatchables, but actually this podcast and the Bad Movie Club existed before the Rewatchables existed. So actually they stole that from us. So
oh shit. Well, fuck them.
First up is the 100-word synopsis. So every month or week or whatever, not week, but every time we do one of these episodes, one of us is going to try to summarize these batshit insane movies in 100 words. So I'm up this week, this time, and all right, here we go. Johnny Blaze and his father are carnies. Johnny's father is dying of cancer. Devil gives Johnny a deal for his soul to save his father's life. Johnny takes the deal and decides to flee with his childhood sweetheart, Roxanne. While fleeing, his father dies in a stunt gone wrong. Time jump. Johnny is still a stuntman, and Blackheart has shown up to get a contract. Don't worry, that's not important. Roxanne returns to awkwardly rekindle their romance. Johnny is taken by the devil to retrieve the contract. Johnny becomes Ghost Rider, wreaks havoc, kills the fallen angels, and gets the girl. I think I covered everything.
It's funny because the first part of this movie takes such a long time. And while I was watching, I'm like, why isn't this just the movie then? Like, why don't they just make these kids the movie in a sense? Like, we spend such a long time on this backstory.
He does not become Daredevil until the 47
well, that's weird. Do you think,
minutes. Sorry, Ghost Rider.
Damn it! God damn it! You ruined my. I was gonna roast you. Damn you.
He does not become Ghost Rider until the 47-minute mark of this movie.
Holy shit!
47 minutes, and this movie is 2 hours.
Do you think that's like a record for like how long it takes for like a suit up scene, basically?
Honestly, Iron Man might be close because we get a lot of him in the cave.
Iron Man's cool though.
Yes. But you were just talking just time wise. I think Iron Man is close.
That's fair. That's very, very fair.
Because especially if you're counting actual Iron Man suit, it's got to be way more than 47 minutes.
Well, maybe it's fanforstic because they don't actually ever like become anything.
You know, I still have never seen that movie.
It's so bad.
I think fanforstic is going to be like for me is going to be like Venom for you, or just won't watch it ever.
That's fair. I honestly, Jay, I kind of wish I had my time back.
I just feel bad because like Michael B. Jordan's great. Like I love MBJ.
No one's good in it.
No, he's not even good in it.
Right. He doesn't do anything in it. He's just like there. Yeah. Like it's like funny because like he could be such a good like snarky. Like to me, I'm like that's a very good casting as that character, and it's just like
the whole cast. Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Kate. See,
Miles Teller's so weird to me because I'm like I don't like you, but then I like watch Top Gun Maverick. I'm like, damn it, I kind of liked you in that, and it's just such a weird back and forth with me. I guess it just depends on the movie.
Big Miles Teller head. I love Miles Teller.
He was mean to my friend in the elevator once, and I'll never forgive him for that.
Oh, I just assume that all actors are dicks. I don't I just assume they're all
Sigourney Weaver's
people. Nice. Oh, okay, great.
I don't know. I only mentioned this because I've saw them both in the same day. And
Fair enough.
My brain just associated that.
Yeah. All right, next up is the question: is Rotten Tomatoes right? So, this movie has a 27% from critics and a 48% from the audience. As usual, I must stress that these numbers don't mean anything. Rotten Tomatoes is not a measure of whether a movie is good or not. But the question here is: did Rotten Tomatoes, a broken clock, get it right this time? Corey, do you think 27%, so for people who aren't exactly familiar, because actually I think a shocking number of people don't really know what those numbers mean. So what 27% for critics means is that of the reviews that Rotten Tomatoes has aggregated from critics, being like newspapers or people with websites and all that stuff, that 27% of them gave this movie a score of 6 or higher. So it actually doesn't really mean that 27% of people think this movie is good. It just means 27% of people think this movie isn't bad.
Okay, so I gotta ask a question. I feel like we should have done this beforehand. I didn't think about it until just right now. Do you think we should start including Metacritic?
No, because I hate Metacritic. But if you want to, sure.
Well, I'm just saying. I think
Metacritic is actually somehow worse than Rotten Tomatoes. I don't
know. I mean, if we're gonna like kind of like, at least in my opinion, kind of basing it off of like scoring wise, like. But you know, honestly, for right now, it is completely irrelevant because it's pretty much the same exact score. So
yeah. So for reference, the Ghost Rider review on Metacritic is 35 from 20 critical reviews versus the 27% from 139 on Rotten Tomatoes, and We can have a whole, for those of you who didn't read my absolute tome that was the 2020 movie bracket, or I did a long piece about why Rotten Tomatoes is stupid and like not a good reason, not a good way to measure movies. And actually what you should do is just find a couple of critics that you respect their opinions and go to them. But really what you do is just watch movies. And sometimes you'll see a bad movie. Like I went to go see Resurrection and it was bad. And I wouldn't have gone if I'd read the reviews, but that's fine. It was a very weird horror movie that we don't need to talk about here.
That's okay.
But actually, yeah, the question back to Rotten Tomatoes / Metacritic, which have both basically panned this movie, but not like we the movie that we're going to do next month is like a 3%, right? Is what we said.
Yeah, so, this is a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
actually, this movie, like a fourth of critics say this movie is like not bad. Is that fair? Yeah. Do you think? Oh, so I'll say, so I think that the first part of this movie, like you were saying, the young part, is that the young kids, the flashback in a sense, is actually like pretty good. You know,
I think so too. It's like the acting seems on point. Everyone kind of like weighing like a lot of like, I guess, heavy life choices on there, and everything kind of does feel real.
Yeah, the part of this movie that is least about Ghost Rider is the best part of this movie, which is really sad. But and
it's some good drama too. Like the whole idea of like I want to run away with this girl, but my dad is my dad's sick. Yeah. And then it's like, dude, what do I do between that? And then you got literally the devil shows up and it's like, give me your soul so I can save your father. And it's like there's a lot of like interesting things being thrown back and forth, ending on a pretty like somber note of his dad dying.
Although I think as soon as that happens, it becomes comical because his like drive off into the distance is so stupid.
Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah, and it becomes comical then, and then he just stops and stares at her in the rain, which is just genuine. Just
one. Why is this bitch waiting in the rain?
That's one.
She doesn't have like a house to stay in,
or an umbrella.
And then he coming by to then look at her and then drive off is hilarious. It's like honestly like a sick prank.
Because you know what would have been? It would have been a really easy conversation. I don't want to run off with you. I just saw my father die. I'm sorry. Bye.
Well, but also, like, I would think at that time, now, I've never planned to run away with somebody or watched a parent die in a tragic accident.
A lot of logistics for both.
Yeah, I would think you'd want this person you love to be with you now.
Well, let's not, I mean, that makes sense, Jay, for some healthy people. Some people rather push other people away.
I guess fair enough.
And people who become adult Nicolas Cages usually don't make the best decisions.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I do think weirdly I would say this movie is somewhere in between the critics and the audience. I think nearly 50% of people saying this movie is not bad is like I think a little too high for some reason, and then 27% is maybe too low because while most of the Nicolas Cage stuff is really bad, there is some good stuff going on in there. Mostly the like everything that's happening that they're trying to do like Western shit. I'm kind of into.
Yeah, there's some interesting ideas involved in it, and I don't think it's like 3 out of 10 bad.
No,
in my opinion, but I think it's like I don't think I would break 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one.
Maybe a 4. Maybe a 4 or 4.5, honestly, with me. I don't really think I could put it any higher than that.
I do think that this has the building blocks, even so we will of course get to remaking this movie. This has the building blocks for something that's actually genuinely good, and it falls into a lot of pit holes like we were talking about. This is like the dark time for comic book movies. Falls into a lot of pit holes that those movies were falling into, which is I think the biggest issue with this movie is over bloating of the plot. Mm-hmm. The fact that halfway through the film that we just like introduce new villains and swap out somebody who was like already like a great villain is weird and doesn't really serve the plot at all. And I understand that it's a reference to the comic book. Blackheart is of course like a Marvel character and a Ghost Rider villain, but like who cares? Like just like you don't need to have every Marvel villain in your Marvel movies.
And if they're gonna do that, though, I think the fact that it matters that they like. I was thinking like, I guess like him against his son. That's whatever. But I think maybe if they actually kind of kept using the devil as a way to do some more exposition or kind of like still be heavily involved in the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Would be
because he
better,
does
but
sort of
clearly-
just come in and out, and that might be
Yeah.
a Peter Fonda scheduling thing. 'Cause
I
he's
think
sort of in,
I was about to
three
say,
scenes.
yeah, I was about to say, I feel like Peter Fonda might have cost a bit too much money for them to.
Peter Fonda is like not like a huge
Well,
rest in peace
yeah, I guess,
to
okay.
the great man, but he's not like he wasn't like a huge name ever.
Well, maybe like just scheduling or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
something.
It's like I think that must have been like what it is because I feel like he should have been in this movie some more because I feel like if he was in this movie some more, basically egging on Nicolas Cage, kind of leading up into the ending where Nicolas Cage is like, I'm gonna come after you basically at the end. It's like that would have come with a bit more stock. I mean,
Is that what the plot of the second movie is? Because I
I
genuinely
have
don't
no
remember.
idea. I don't fucking remember that movie. Idris Elba was in it. I don't remember him being in
Was
it.
he really?
Mm-hmm.
I might need to watch that movie just for like my own morbid curiosity.
It's just kind of funny with Idris Elba because he keeps picking bad movies where like the whatever like whatever many years of low
3,000 Years of
what-
Longing.
There
I'm
it is.
incredibly excited for that movie. Don't talk.
I am too, but he also has that movie where he's fighting a fucking lion.
Beast, I heard, was like supposed to be good, right?
Wait, really? Because it looks. I mean, the poster is horrible.
Yeah, the poster's not great.
Any idea it's like a man running at a lion with a knife? I'm like, that motherfucker's dead. I don't give a shit if it's Idris Elba.
But also just the idea of like Idris Elba in like a Jaws scenario where he's just like stranded against a monster for an entire movie. I'm into. Like, I love Idris Elba. I will watch
No,
Idris Elba.
that's very fair. But I'm saying, imagine like the fisherman is just like he just has his like harpoon as the shark's jumping at him. Like that motherfucker's dead.
It is true. Like you can't win against the lion. It's a good point.
You don't win.
But yeah, but I mean, 3,000 Years of Longing. I mean, I love George.
I'm
Miller, one of
I'm
my
very
favorite
excited for that
directors.
one. Yes.
Yeah. I think the biggest, like the turning point in this movie where it goes from passably good to genuinely bad is like literally like the handoff from Peter Fonda's Devil to Wes Bentley's Blackheart and like his band of. Also, why isn't this just the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse? It really annoys me that there's four of them and they're not the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Makes no sense, honestly. I really got nothing for you on that one.
It's the whole, like, I was like, oh, they're the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, but they're not, because it's not famine, whatever they're. I don't remember off the top of my head, but
It's just
it's
you got a
not
nigga
those
who's
things.
wet. You got a nigga who's wet.
The wet guy is the worst, and I can't
I
believe
hate
he's the
him
one that
so
lasts the
much.
longest. He's so gross.
He's just a wet.
Honestly, I feel bad for the actor. Imagine having to
I know,
be
he's just
wet
just
the whole
wet
time you're on
the
set.
like for multiple takes. It wasn't didn't like it was very warm on these sets either.
No. He's not having a good time.
I don't want to say he earned his paycheck, but he kind of just stood there and didn't really do much. So,
No,
yeah.
he doesn't really act much. I do often. I really sympathize for actors who go through hell. Not this guy went through hell. He was wet on set, but like go through it to make like a really bad movie. My favorite of all time is, and I think I've brought this up on the podcast before. So the I was gonna say Top Gun remake, but that's what it is. Point Break. The Point Break remake in 2015 is. I've never seen the movie, so I'm not. But it is critically panned. But I don't know if it's actually genuinely bad. I imagine it probably is. But it often appears in. You ever seen those videos where they get like an expert to review movie clips? Mm-hmm. It's like a big thing on a bunch of YouTube channels. This movie appears in like all of the stunt ones, and there's one stunt video where this guy's talking about how this clip in Point Break is the most death-defying stunt ever in a movie. Like these guys are like flying. It's like a wingsuit scene. And they are actually flying like 6 inches above the ground, going hundreds of miles an hour. And if it was at all wrong, they would have turned it to like mist in the sky. And then you look at the reviews for this movie, and it's 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. It makes me laugh every time. Imagine if you fucking died to make Point Break remake. It's just not worth it, man.
That fucking sucks.
Yeah, but that's what I think about when I watch Wet Guy and Ghost Rider. I'm like, God, it's not worth it. Nobody's going to remember this movie or you. And you're just damp the whole time. All right. Anything else to say about the goodness or badness of this movie before we take a break and come back and do some more categories?
Nope, nothing else for me.
Oh, you're looking at the suit. I know it's silly, but the fans like it, so I keep on wearing it.
What about the cane?
I need support. No, it's part of the costume.
Okay, and ready in 5, 4, 3, 2.
How's your dad?
Johnny Blaze, thank you for talking to us before your big jump. No one has ever attempted such a distance before. 300 feet from field goal to field goal. What's going through your mind right now?
You look really good. I seen you on TV. You know, I watch a lot of TV, and you do a really good job.
Johnny, what drives somebody to risk their life for entertainment?
I heard you got married.
No, it didn't happen.
No.
Most of the time, the press focuses on the crashes, the broken bones, the cost of what you do. Are there any other costs?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for this revealing peek into the life of Johnny Blaze. I'm Roxanne Simpson, on scene.
And we're back.
So,
All right. First up is the best and the worst performances in this movie. Now, we're going to start with best because best was slightly more contentious. Not contentious. We both agree these are great, but we couldn't decide on one. So, first up is Corey's nomination is Peter Fonda as the devil or Mephisto, which I told Corey I wouldn't in this podcast, but I'm going to say it once. It's so stupid. Just call him the devil.
Jay, we're a comic book podcast. We got to call it what it is.
Yeah, but I think it's even dumb in the comic books. Just call him Mephisto. Why? Or call... Damn it.
There you go. All right.
All right. You win, Marvel. You did
Yeah,
it.
exactly. But I mean, I think like we were kind of like alluding to this beforehand, where we're like scheduling conflicts. But he is like my favorite part of the film.
Yes.
I
He's
guess like
great.
your pick is a close second. But I think he is like my favorite performance of the film. Every time he's on screen, I feel like I'm in a different movie, and I'm like, oh, I can listen to what this guy's saying. This guy legitimately feels like the devil. Why is he not in this movie more? Because
And I
he's
actually
such, like,
think he has like good chemistry with Nicolas Cage on screen, which is can't be said for anybody else in this movie, including Eva Mendes.
Yeah, including even Mendes. Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, like it works. Like I believe that him and Nicolas Cage have this kind of like contention point, but like there's like I like it a lot.
Yeah.
And I think if Peter Fonda was a little bit more in it, and at least goading and pushing it on, and kind of giving a little bit more backstory why we should be afraid of Blackheart. We just kind of been told like this guy's bad, and that's about it. He's like, this guy bad, he's my son. We don't know any more about his like reasoning or like really what he wants, and there's something really more for the audience to actually attach itself to. Like I felt no like sense of urgency nor weight to it, because I feel like whenever like I'm like, you have to do this thing, and I feel like the scenes with the tension are the ones, even though I knew it was coming with like his dad going to die or other things like that. I mean, if the devil was maybe more involved with like maybe threatening Eva Mendes' character or his friend's character or other parts of his life, basically, like kind of like tearing that down and forcing Nicolas Cage to kind of do this thing rather than him just being like, I have your soul and pushing you forward. I think there could have been a bit more of like, because at the end we see the fact that Nicolas Cage can defect from him.
Yeah.
I think maybe we could have definitely, with Peter Fonda's voice and like presence, we could have definitely come from a bit more of a psychological aspect of things as a way to push the story forward.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And like I said before, I think this movie is infinitely better if he's just like the main villain instead of switching over to Blackheart. And he has, like you said, he brings so much gravitas to this. And he's the only part of the movie that genuinely feels like it adds like stakes. At no point am like afraid of Blackheart. Not that this is a horror movie or anything, but like I don't look at him and feel like intimidated. Peter Fonda has like a great presence on screen, even when he's not really like acting, which acting his ass off. I love the thing about like they clearly cast Peter Fonda, one, because he's a great actor, and two, because he's like a Western legend. Like he's been in a ton of Westerns. One of my favorite performances and one of the last performances of his life is in The Ballad of Lefty Brown, which is one of my favorite modern Westerns. And actually in this exact same year, in 2007, he's in the remake of 3:10 to Yuma, another really great movie. So he's just, yeah, he's it's clearly supposed to be like a reference because this movie really wants to be a Western, although it doesn't have like a lot of Western elements in it, despite the fact that it desperately wants to be one. But yeah, I'm with you.
I'm like also, yeah, I was really wondering if like initially when they were writing the script, it was going to be a Western. They just decided to go to like a different.
Yeah, I don't know. I bet you that somebody, like original version of the script is like the Carter the Carter Slade story, and then somebody was like, we can't sell that to people, like nobody wants to go watch horse riding in 2007, make it a motorcycle, let's make it Ghost Rider instead of the or make it new Ghost Rider instead of classic Ghost Rider. But I don't know, I think that would have been great if it was just like a classic Western. We haven't really had like a good Western in quite a while, I think.
I think the last good one was with Jonathan Majors that came out last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Harder They Fall.
Harder They Fall. There it is.
I also I love that movie, but I also think the thing that really works about it is it's like a response
It's
to the genre. It's like flipping
Yes,
the whole
that's fair.
Western idea on its head. I just want like a classic Western, like bad guy, good guy. It's what like Westworld season 1 really wanted to be, but I don't think it really
true.
was. But yeah, that's Peter Fonda. Like I said, rest in peace to the legend. Next up, we have my nomination for Best Performance, which is Sam Elliott's Carter Slade, who is the voiceover from the beginning of this movie. He's like a lot of the through lines for he basically is all the exposition in this film. He explains to Johnny Blaze what's happening to him, and Sam Elliott, much like Peter Fonda, brings so much gravitas to his scenes that it just is like effective. Like he turns what is ultimately like pretty stupid stuff, like to explaining what's happening, like why you're turning into a flaming skull that rides a motorcycle, and makes it like really effective storytelling. And Sam Elliott's he's just like a fantastic actor. Obviously, I think probably most people at this point know him from A Star Is Born. Is that probably what most modern viewers will know him from?
I suppose so, yeah.
Or maybe he's in that 1883, the like prequel to Yellowstone, the somehow most popular television show on TV.
But maybe like I guess like fucking Big Lebowski.
I don't. Well, yes, no, he's great in Big Lebowski. I just don't know if like a ton of modern. Obviously, yeah, he's Big Lebowski.
I think in my brain I always just go to Big Lebowski when I'm thinking about Sam Elliott. It's just
Tombstone, another 90s
Tombstone,
classic
yeah.
that he's great in. Yeah, he's had a long.
He
a long,
looks
long
like
career.
if you think about an old cowboy in your head with a big mustache, that's Sam Elliott.
I think that like obviously he looks like an old cowboy. It's great, but the voice is what really works, and that's why his casting in Golden Compass I think is so genius, because it's like the voice I had in my head while I was reading the book before I even watched the movie.
That's the one actor. That's the one actor they should have just brought back for the TV show, and I don't know why they did that.
Yeah, well, because he's not British. That's why.
Love the TV show, and that neither is fucking what? No, I'm sorry. Neither is Lin-Manuel.
Oh,
there was no reason. There was
TV show.
the character's American, or the character's like whatever their version of American is.
Yeah, you're right.
He's a cowboy.
I forgot Lin-Manuel is playing Lee Scoresby in the show. It was so weird.
Weird.
Coming back soon. We'll talk about it.
Thank God. Sorry. I finished the book series last year. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, so it's good. It's good. Philip Pullman's a good writer. All right. We both agreed. So that's our nomination for best. I think so. If we had to pick one, if you had to pick between Peter Fonda's Mephisto or Sam Elliott's Carter Slade, who are you going with?
I mean, I think my problem with both of them is just I wish they had more to do.
Yeah. This movie is too much Nicolas Cage having zero sexual chemistry with Eva Mendes and not enough Sam Elliott and Peter Fonda having sexual chemistry with Nicolas Cage.
You know what the worst fact about it is that there's clearly is a backstory between both Peter Fonda's character and Sam Elliott's character, and they never ever interact.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there could have been a very powerful, I don't know, something involved there that would have helped Nicolas Cage.
We get the opening, like, flashback shot of young Sam Elliott as the first Ghost Rider, and that's the only time we see him get the contract. But obviously, there's not even any like dialogue in that scene, and it's not Sam Elliott. So
yeah, so it's like
I'm with you.
But I don't know. Between the two of them, I guess I feel like the movie could work. I don't think the movie would detract without Sam Elliott. So I got to say Peter Fonda. Like, I think you probably could have ignored the entire Western Ghost Rider thing and you would have the same movie. The only thing you're really missing is that one really cool scene and some good narration voice. But
you would need somebody else to get you the exposition, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with Peter Fonda. I mean, I think it's close between them. But what was very easy was who was the worst part of this movie, and it is without question. And I think people who have listened to the podcast will know that this is no surprise to them. This is Wes Bentley as Blackheart, who, I mean, I'm not really sure what he's doing in any given scene. It's so weird. I don't know. He's just like giving off such an aggressively strange energy. The scene that really struck with me was when he comes to like get Roxanne in Johnny's apartment and he like kidnaps her, and he's not sinister at all. He's just like laughing all the time. It's so weird. And I'm maybe that wasn't an actor choice. Maybe the director was like, we need you to be laughing because this is really creepy. But he doesn't have it. At no point I think when he's on screen is this like working for me.
I think honestly, like we wouldn't. If he was a better actor, I could accept that maybe Peter Fonda like being like away. This like if they were like a much more interesting and better actor like that took over this role, and my mind's right now just going to David Tennant. But someone like that where like he can play that kind of like crazed person, it would have worked. But Wes Bentley is not that guy.
Yeah, I think there's a version of this character that isn't terrible, but
this
we didn't get that version.
No, we did not. The writing and the acting was not good at all.
I just don't really get why they introduced these 4 disparate like fallen angel characters to this movie. It doesn't really make any sense.
No, it doesn't. I think it should have been 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I think like the Devil's Son should be trying to bring apart. Well, they are trying to bring the apocalypse too. That's the other thing is they are trying to bring the apocalypse. So why aren't they the Horsemen of the Apocalypse? And they could ride fucking horses in the fucking Ghost Rider movie. I don't know, man. And there wouldn't be some wet dude. We literally should just be like it should just been set in the Old West. I swear, I think there might have been. I feel like there might have been a script for that. Honestly.
Probably at some point it was. I think so.
I was reading like through the Wikipedia article, even though like the director only wanted Nicolas Cage, but they were like apparently Johnny Depp almost did it, and I'm like, mid-2000s Johnny Depp makes a lot of fucking sense for this movie.
More than Nicolas Cage. I still think
much
it's
more
like
than Nicolas Cage.
I think it's still a very weird.
Yeah, but I think he's still like he's much more of that motorcycle. I think he actually rides a motor. All right, whatever.
So is that before or after Curse of the Black Flag? It's after. So we're like deep into
we're like
Jack
middle
Sparrow
of Pirates
territory.
Yeah.
I think there's good and bad to it.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, let's move on next to our aptly named "You Know What Happens When a Toad Gets Struck by Lightning" award for the worst piece of dialogue, which is of course a reference to one of the stupidest lines in the history of movies. In it's X2,
X-Men.
right? In the first X-Men?
No, the first X-Men, when Halle Berry is fighting Toad. I don't really think there's much more of an explanation than you guys need than that.
Well, she also answers her own question, which is the same as happens to everything else. It dies.
I just like whenever I hear lines like that, I just imagine the writers' room people just high-fiving each other afterwards, just like we fucking did it again. No,
there's no way they thought that was good, right?
No. I mean, they filmed it.
They did fucking film it, didn't they? They filmed it and they didn't cut it out.
They exactly like scripts go through many hands.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't think anybody like walks the director like you have to do this fucking line. It's not like there was like any kind of sponsorship involved. They could have changed the line on set, Che. They could have done the right read, and I'm like that was fucking dumb, right?
The number of people that would have had to hear and read that line and then sign off on it for it to get to screen is rough. But
Halle Berry has been like, no.
Yeah. And we don't have anything quite as bad as Do You Know What Happens when a toad gets struck by lightning. We have 4 nominations for the worst line of the movie. I'll start with number 1, which is, of course, Barton Blaze to his son, who is planning to leave with his high school or childhood sweetheart. Do you think she's going to stand by you when you're in a wheelchair? Which is just ironic because he wants him to stick around and keep jumping motorcycles.
Exactly. Like, it's like, are you hopefully, like, is it the assumption that I'm going to be in a wheelchair because I'm doing this career with you? Like, I'm confused. Like, if you don't, there's like not a single point where he's like, I don't want you to stop doing this with me.
Right.
If anything, he's encouraging it.
Yes.
Bad dad. He's a bad dad.
There's a lot of not great about the like father-son relationship at the beginning of the movie. This line really, I think, encapsulates all of it. Very, very cleanly. Next up, we have, I think, honestly, my favorite line from this movie. But we have Johnny Blaze being interrogated by two cops who tried the I think one of the worst versions of good cop, bad cop I've ever seen on screen. And he says in response to them, "I watch a lot of TV, so I know what you're doing. Good cop, bad cop, but you're both good cops, and you provide a very, very important civil service. In fact, when I finish my stunt career, I intend to apply my skills to become a motorcycle police officer." He says that all in a row, like it's a normal fucking sentence for a human being to say.
I kind of love it though. 'Cause
It's
just, like,
hilarious.
Like, this is insane. Like, I kind of do love it for that fact. I'm like, oh, this man's like insane.
But the thing is, like, at no point before that do we get the inclination that he's like this kind of weird, funny,
No, we don't.
crazy character. It's just this one line, which I think somebody probably on set was like, we need to throw some propaganda in here so that we don't get canceled by the cops or whatever the fuck. Like, what is this line? It's so weird.
What a different time.
Yeah, 2007 was strange. All right, third up on the list, we have Carter Slade. Delivered excellently. Let me say that off the bat. But we have, congratulations, your chances went from none to slim, which is just a great, good, bad line. Or like a bad, good line. It doesn't really mean anything.
No.
It's like a real button at the end of a scene that you think, like, initially you're like, great. And Sam Elliott, of course, delivers it perfectly. But then you think for like 2 seconds, like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like,
I feel like Sam Elliott should be in a film where he just says a bunch of nonsense. Like, yeah, wait, what? He has that gravitas to him that he could just say something I could be like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then 5 minutes later, I'd be like, no, that was stupid. No.
All right, and last but not least on our list is Johnny Blaze to Sam Elliott himself once he basically outs himself as Ghost Rider. Not on purpose, but now everyone knows that he's Ghost Rider. He says to Carter, "They know who I am. Who's that? What? Everybody. Don't you watch TV? What's the matter with you?"
Love it.
And Nicolas Cage's delivery of it is like it's like an SNL sketch. It's like he's the only one in on the joke, and I don't get what the joke is. But I do think that there's only one winner here. Are we in agreement?
Yeah, I think
It's this weird propaganda paragraph in the middle of the interrogation scene.
I'm like this. Like, is this like, is he making a joke? Is it something that's actually like, because he doesn't say, he says it in such a weird way. I'm like, is he actually being sincere right now? Like,
Well, they don't really react to it. Is the other weird thing. Is like the two cops just sort of move on. Like, I don't remember what the next line is, but it's not in response to that. Really.
yeah, no. Also, these two cops are horrible. They're like, you did it, and he's like, then there's like no real proof about it. And
Yeah.
it's
So, we'll get to that scene in a second, but I guess we'll talk about it there, so I'll save it. I have some questions about the logistics of that interrogation, but whatever. All right, next up we have the worst scene award, and we have 5 nominations, which are as follows. We have first up is the pre-jump, like, I think everything in the dressing room and including their interview with Roxanne is all sort of equally insane, and it's I think that's the first instance we get of really like a Nicolas Cage being really Nicolas Cage. It's our first, like, we don't get it much in this movie, which is, I think, a little bit of a disservice to the film. But this is our first like Cage moment of him looking in the mirror, being very weird before Mac, his like pit boss or whatever, walks in, and then he walks out to talk to Roxanne, and it is an odd scene where are we supposed to assume he's like brain damaged?
I don't know. It's like is he just supposed to be slow? We don't really have much of a character. Okay, Johnny doesn't actually have a character.
No, that's the thing is he he is sort of like what the scene needs him to be. He's either like a really good guy or like a conflicted guy.
Or is he a big, like, is he a flirt? Is he a jokester? Is he
Right.
like...
The scene where he's like riding down the freeway, endangering his life, is really like
in other people's lives.
Yeah. It reminds me, I don't know which came first, but that scene from Fast and Furious where
I think Fast and Furious came first. The one where he's staring
at her and driving straight the whole time. So I mean, we've had that in movies a lot. It's certainly not like an original.
I wonder how many accidents that scene has caused. The Fast and Furious one.
I would hope nobody is dumb enough to.
No. People are dumb enough, Jay.
I know, but I still like to believe that nobody is stupid enough to try to pull that off and like drive off the fucking cliff or something, some shit. Yeah, I don't know. So we also have Johnny. Sort of, it's our first real brutal murder on screen, and we have Johnny brutally killing a mugger. This is of course for the Rebel Wilson's cameo. She's being mugged by I guess, serial killer, because we see after the fact, like during he does his penance stare, Ghost Rider does, and we see clips of he like shoots a bunch of people, stabs a bunch of people.
Yeah, this guy's pretty much a big old murderer, apparently.
It's one of the worst human beings on planet Earth, so fair enough, I guess. But just for the crime of mugging, I think we're both in agreement. You shouldn't be put to death, right?
I guess if you're a murderer, though, I don't know. Like, I don't.
I suppose.
Listen, I don't know. I'm not. Hey, listen, I don't know.
The morality of this movie is quite interesting because actually, you could make the argument that the worst person in the movie is Johnny Blaze himself. He causes like lots of damage and kills lots of people, and there's a lot. Yeah, he's not like Superman.
Good dude.
He's not doing
but
like
I guess at the same time
for people.
He did get his powers from Satan.
No. It makes sense. I do actually kind of like it.
It's kind of like in Blade Trinity, where like Blade's killed like at least 50 people, and it's like I guess that does make sense. I guess he probably does like kill people by accident occasionally.
Yeah, well, but also isn't he? I think the fact in Blade Trinity that he's supposed to be all the humans he killed we're supposed to assume they're at least familiars.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point. But I'm saying like still like on paper.
Yeah. He's not exclusively killing vampires.
Yes, no, exactly, yes.
Yeah. We also have next up, we have Roxanne after being stood up by Johnny Blaze, who at the restaurant goes to his apartment to I guess have sex with him. I can't really understand what else she's doing here except for to have sex with him.
Man, she is desperate.
Which is for a lot of reasons is really dumb because like Eva Mendes is Eva Mendes. Like, I
mean, like one of the like this guy when she asked the waiter if she's attractive and the guy says it's like objectively just straight up like objectively wrong.
Right. It's not it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, fucking the other guys make fun of that where Will Ferrell calls his wife ugly, Eva Mendes, and it doesn't make sense because that's the fucking joke. I digress.
Yeah, so she comes to his apartment, and it is just, I think this is the pinnacle of when I realized that these two people have zero chemistry. There's a moment in the scene where she sees a picture on his nightstand of like them as like teenagers together, and then goes in for a kiss, and it's like mid-sentence. She's still talking. She's talking, and then turns to kiss him, and you're like, huh. I don't think whoever wrote and directed the scene has ever kissed a woman before.
Well, I mean, also he did kiss her without her asking, without her permission.
Anytime I see that shit in movies now, it just makes my skin crawl. Like I think
like,
there was a point. Yeah, there's a point before I was like intelligent enough to understand what was going on, where I was like, oh, that's really romantic. He really like took her in his arms and kissed her. Yeah, and now I'm like, my guy, you're just
you're. This is bad.
You need enthusiastic consent, my friend. and there's no middle ground. You can't just be kissing women on the fucking street. The whole scene is weird. But it is the second instance we get of like true Cage when he's in the mirror. And first of all, shout out to Cage for being like actually yoked. That was
Yeah,
surprising.
that was surprised. Yeah,
They greased him up for that scene too.
so greasy.
But he's
I
like,
guess he would be sweating though. I guess that makes sense. But
Yeah, he's
still, you know.
yeah, he's like gnashing his teeth in the mirror, and like that's a real great Cage scene.
Set the camera up, let him be out there in front of a fucking hour. We'll figure shit out later on.
Yeah.
We'll figure out where to put this at some point in the movie. Just go crazy, Cage.
And as of course mentioned previously, we have Johnny's interrogation, which is just patently insane. I think this is the point where we should discuss what is he being arrested for.
I think like the idea is that he was linked to the murders or whatever.
But he's linked to the murders because there was fire there, and he uses fire in his shows.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm holding my hands up, and
It doesn't make any sense. How they land on Johnny Blaze is the fucking. I would think it would take a lot of evidence to arrest who is like a very public celebrity, as we see evidence on the street when he's like accosted by dozens of people. I would think you need more than they were killed by fire and we found his license plate in like a entire slew of destroyed cars. Like a bunch of cars were destroyed.
And like, let's put it out there though, he probably wouldn't. First off, he wouldn't handle his own pyrotechnics. Second off, anybody probably can take one of his many motorcycles. Most of these stunt people don't carry their bikes around.
Right.
Third off, to be like, yeah, my shit got stolen. I leave my door unlocked.
But all them finding a license plate means is that his bike was somewhere on the street when whatever this clearly supernatural destruction happened. I don't know. It's one of the and the scene is just both the actors, the police, the people are so bad, like they're terrible.
Yeah,
actors.
they're just really bad about it.
Yeah, we already covered the worst line of the movies in this scene, so yeah, it had to be included.
I really should have included that fucking scene. It was just like sulfur. You ever read the Old Testament?
Yeah, it's rough.
Brimstone. Like what the. Like, what, nigga? Yeah, of course, What? What the fuck does that even mean?
Well, but also, like, it doesn't really answer our questions. Like, so brimstone gives you sulfur poisoning? What are you talking?
Yeah,
what?
the fuck?
What are you talking about?
Just all of it is just like, what?
And last but not least, and I will spoil it at least. This is my pick for the worst scene of the movie, and it is.
I think it's mine as well.
When Nicolas Cage is going to his final battle with Blackheart. And he decides to bike slowly through, I guess, like a marsh or a pond
Or something.
It's very weird because, of course, when we see him, he's biking and his wheels are like they're like on the surface of the water, but I mean, not on the surface, not floating, but, and then he gets dragged underwater and it's deep enough that they're both fighting vertically underwater. So it's at least like 6 feet deep of water. So what the fuck was his bike on?
I don't know.
The logistics of the scene are insane. And also, if you knew, which he does, that the only fallen angel left was wet dude, would you then cross a big body of water? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
It's the logistics of that scene are so nonsense, and it's really like, it's clear that somebody was like, this will be cool visually, and didn't bother to think for even like 1 second about how the scene was going to work at all. And then of course he kills him by, I guess, boiling him alive, as we're supposed to believe, right?
I think we're supposed to believe that, yes.
Yeah, he turns into Ghost Rider underwater and boils the water and kills him. Which is the dumbest death of the three minions? Is it the guy who just gets killed by the chain, which is the first one?
Yeah, it's boring, but
I think he's not on the table. It's either boiled alive in the marsh guy, or like slowly fanned, I guess, away with the air guy. He like spins his chain.
I think the fan then, because the boiling of the
right?
water at least kind of makes sense, but it's still dumb, but it makes sense, I guess.
I do sort of I actually do genuinely sort of love that they're all terrified as they're dying. I think too many bad guys like go out like really, they're like, you won't kill me, and then they get killed. These guys are like genuinely, they're like,
I mean, I think even Blackheart at the end is very much like terrified that he's gonna die.
Yeah, to be fair, his soul is getting like melted or whatever the fuck.
One of my favorite parts about this is because they usually don't like have like the bodies in the background, but Blackheart's body is just like straight up on the ground in the end of like Nicolas Cage against the devil, and I'm like, that's just funny. Like, it's just a dead body.
Yeah.
He didn't fade into nothingness. He's just like, oh, he's just dead over there.
Just dead.
He either come to set for that. and just lay motionless.
Yeah, I guess he did, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Being an actor is tough, especially when you're
Being an
around all the
actor
time.
is tough.
All right. So we're both in agreement that the worst scene is the marsh scene, or do you have another pick?
Nope, I think the marsh scene's pretty fucking dumb.
It's a rough one.
I mean, the interview scene's not a good scene. It's just a bad scene, but I think the marsh scene was objectively stupid.
Yeah, the marsh scene I think is the indicative of the kind of movies that we do a lot, which are like movies where the people making them did not think about these movies at all. Like, didn't spend even like 2 seconds having a conversation with somebody about whether or not the stuff made any sense. But yeah. All right. Next up, we have Must Won Oscar, which is stolen directly from the Rewatchables Just One Oscar, where they talk about good movies. They try to decide what will get one Oscar from them, and we talk about bad movies, and we try to decide what, if any, if we had to, we literally had to give somebody an Oscar, who would be the Oscar nomination or the Oscar winner from this movie. So Corey, you want to go first? I think we've already talked about your guys, so it should be pretty
Yeah,
quick.
I think I'm picking Best Supporting Actor as Peter Fonda as Mephisto.
Yeah.
It's one of those Oscars. He was only on screen for a little bit. We had to give it to him though. But I was yelling at Shay before this. Like, I didn't have anybody, and I was just like, I don't know nobody. And he's like, you have to pick
the fun
somebody.
of this. That's the fun of this
I was
category.
gonna say action, but there's no stunt choreographic as a category, because I was like, some of these fights are very fun and interesting. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about this because I already talked about how much I like Peter Fonda in this. But yeah. So.
For reference, and I want this on the record, Corey is suggesting that in the 2008 Oscars that Peter Fonda in the film Ghost Rider should have beaten out Javier Bardem as Anton Chagrin in No Country for Old Men. Is that what you're saying, Corey?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I love it. My nomination
this is gonna be worse for the next movie. I'm gonna be.
The next movie's gonna be bad.
I gotta think about that one during the entire movie, I think.
So for me, my nomination for if we had to give this movie one Oscar, who it would be is Dane A. Davis and team for sound. Previously, sound mixing and sound editing were separate awards. If I was just choosing one, I would say sound mixing. I think the sound mixing in this movie is actually genuinely like pretty good. Dane Davis is most well known as a sound engineer can be, for he's like Wachowski's guy. He's done all of the Wachowski movies, from The Matrix all the way up until Jupiter's Ascending.
We don't talk about that one.
Yeah, and actually, so I should say up all the way until the most recent Matrix movie too.
Oh, okay.
He's been their guy for a while. And I think the sound of this movie is edited and mixed really well. For a movie that has a lot of sound, like a lot of shit going on, it's really it's not muddy, which I think a lot of times, especially if you go watch The Incredible Hulk again, the sound of that movie is rough, and which is weird because like Ang Lee is like a real director.
Are you talking about like the original?
Sorry, the just Hulk, not Incredible Hulk.
Just Hulk. Okay, I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the sound of that movie is bad. Another movie starring our boy Sam Elliott, by the way.
Oh wow, really? But yeah, I gotta agree with that though. I think all of like the chain effects and the motorcycle and like even his voice, it was all very well done.
Yeah. I think for a movie that is mostly technically pretty bad, you were talking about before, Corey, the VFX this movie is, I think, even bad for like
I think it's one of those
standards.
It's one of those things where I'm like not really sure if this is like.
I think for 2007 though it's not even good, because we were talking about some other 2007 movies. I mean, Death Proof comes out this year. Death Proof, I still think like today looks really great.
But does Death Proof have that much CGI though with it?
I just mean like effects in general. I don't know if it's much CGI. It's probably mostly practical.
I think what I mostly mean is CGI in this movie. I thought like some of the practical stuff was fine, but I think like the CGI looked a little rough to me sometimes.
I know it gets a lot of shit for the Uncanny Valley, but I think it is actually technically really well done. Beowulf is the same year, and
but I think Beowulf was kind of that like weird like where like that was kind of like the first of that kind of like what was like motion capture, I guess what it was. Like
I don't actually know how
they
they
were
did it.
trying a new technology with Beowulf. I thought Beowulf. I liked it.
I think Beowulf is actually a good movie. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, Golden Compass came out this year. You've got
Okay, that's
Pirates of
very
the
fair. No.
Caribbean.
I forgot about Golden Compass. None of this else matters. Golden Compass had a polar bear fight that looked fucking awesome. Get on that level. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah, I agree. So are we, between the two of us, which do you think is neither of these? Obviously, so actually,
I think
should
best
say
sound. No, I think best sound. I think
sound.
you have the better pick. I think
best.
best
So
sound.
best sound, editing, and mixing both went to The Bourne Ultimatum in 2008, a movie that I haven't rewatched in a while, but those Bourne movies do sound really good. Transformers was nominated in both categories. I don't think Transformers is like a terribly mixed or edited movie, but I would say Ghost Rider is probably a better sounding movie. It's not as big and flashy. There's a lot of like going on.
Yeah,
in
I was like,
Transformers.
because I know, like, I think Transformers becomes very like in a blender, but I don't remember when that started.
The first movie is not as guilty of that as the following ones, for sure.
I think the first Transformers movie was the first time I ever like went with like an adult, and they were just like so mad about it afterwards. And, like, as a kid, I loved it, and I'm not gonna name names because I just called them an adult, and they would be very mad at me for saying that.
I mean, didn't we go see Transformers 2 at midnight together?
We did see Transformers 2 together at midnight, but this is like the first Transformers, and I think it was mostly because of the whole overly sexualized high school.
Oh,
was the biggest.
The Megan Fox storyline. When I go back and no, I haven't rewatched Transformers in a while, but when I think about it, I'm like, I don't understand how we let that happen as like a society.
It's bad.
Yeah,
it's like real creepy and real bad.
Yep, Michael Bay is not a good dude. All right, next up we have best drinking game, and I'm quite excited for this category. Honestly, I think this will be one of the more fun ones going forward. So we have. Each of us are going to pitch a drinking game for this movie to get you through what is a real slog of it. This movie's 2 hours plus, which is crazy. So I'll go first, pitch mine really quick. So we've got, you should drink anytime there are monkeys on screen or monkeys mentioned. You drink anytime there is a murder, which there's a lot of murders.
There's a lot of murders.
Anytime there is needless destruction of public property by our hero. And anytime our hero says you can't live in fear, which I love because he says it constantly, it makes you think it's like the theme of the movie, but actually it isn't. This movie isn't about fear at all.
What is the theme of this movie?
There isn't a theme. There isn't, but it's definitely not like no character is like battling their fear. Nobody contends with fear. And then of course, you have to finish your drink anytime Cage goes full Cage, which by my estimation is 3 to 4 times, depending on your definition of full Cage. But yeah, you're getting fucked up if you're playing this drinking game, I think.
Mm-hmm. The ones that I want to add in, because I think you definitely got most of them. The weird religious references that go nowhere. Brimstone, where like whenever someone picks up a book and they look at like a page of something, they never really focus on it. And they're like, or like Nicolas Cage is like, I'm just reading this. Like, we don't necessarily know what he gets out of it. He says he's been reading these weird books, but we never really understand why he's reading these books. We don't know much about Johnny as a character.
Nope.
The weird eye zoom ins where they're clearly trying to pull a Western thing. They never do it well, and it's always very funny. And Cage does that weird point thing.
Which I think is actually only in the movie so that it come back at the end and it's supposed to be like a moment where he points at the devil.
But he doesn't like point. He puts like his fingers in like, does like it's like not like it's like I think like a single like point would be fine. Yeah. But he does this whole like and I noticed it when they did the first like jump scene. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah, it's weird. It's very strange. I think probably the script just said point and Nicolas Cage is a fucking weirdo and he was like, I think this character would point like this.
He's like, but Nicholas, can we just point like a normal person, man?
He's like, we'll do it both ways. How about that? We'll try it your way, and then we'll try it my way.
He did his way first. Like, I'm tired.
Yeah, I think pick and choose which one of those you want because you shouldn't die during this drinking game. But I think
that's very true.
I think you need a little bit of alcohol and you need to get through this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Did this movie dead sober. That was rough.
We've got one more category before we take a break and come back and fix this movie. But this category is another good one, and it is no dumb questions. So each of us will ask the other an unanswerable or possibly answerable question from the movie, and the other one will try their best to give it a genuine answer. Corey, you want to go first, or should I?
Yes. Okay, my thing about this movie was, I remember thinking about this as a kid. If you make a deal with the devil, I understand the whole monkey's paw thing. But if the devil wants you to work for him, why would you kill his dad?
Yeah.
So my question is the devil just a really bad boss?
It's like a classic paradox, I guess is the word, because you get people ask this a lot with like hell, right? Like, why is the devil torturing all these people who are committing evil on earth when that's all he ever wanted, is for like people to sin and disobey God, and then he takes them to hell and punishes them for eternity? It's absolutely, the devil is, I think, maybe just a dumbass. I think the answer is the devil's not that smart. Yeah. And much like Jeff Bezos is not a great boss. You're right.
I think, honestly, what the smarter plan the devil could have done was save his dad, kill him
actually
like 5
save
years.
His dad? Yeah.
Yeah, actually save his dad, kill him 5 years down the line. You can still get your rocks off. But then have Nicolas Cage be like, you gave my dad 5 extra years of life. Listen, man, I owe you one. I'll be your devil hunter guy. That
Or
works
even,
for me.
Doesn't it make more sense to just keep him alive and like, if you keep working for me, your dad will stay alive?
That's also a really good idea.
And when you stop working for me, he'll die. Like, it just seems like that would make more sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like shit like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would have made sense, you know.
Yeah, it's like most bosses, it's all about short term. Even though they should know, if you treat your employees with respect and compensate them well, they actually will be happier and last longer at your company. But what are you gonna do?
Is the devil Jeff Bezos? The answer is absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
that we didn't need this podcast to tell us that, though.
No, we did not. But hey, this is where you guys come for that information anyway.
All right, my question for you is: does or doesn't the Ghost Rider age? So we have 2 Ghost Riders in this movie. We have
Yes, we do.
Sam Elliott, who at the time of shooting this movie is like in his late 60s or early 60s. And like we said before, we see him 150 years in the past as a young man. So we know he does age, but obviously slowly. But on the other hand, there's Nicolas Cage, who ages even faster than Eva Mendes.
Yeah, that's also, yep. If we're going by that logic, absolutely. He's older than her for sure.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage is 10 years older than Eva Mendes, and at the prologue when they're both young, he's not 10 years older than her at that time.
No, they're supposed to be, they seem to be the same age.
Yeah, let's hope he's not 30-year-old man and she's in her 20s. That would be a different
This is not a Michael Bay movie, okay?
No, but don't worry, Corey. It's like Robin Hood laws or whatever the fuck.
Oh, fuck
you were dating
off.
Before.
Don't remind me of that horrible plot point. She could have just been 18. She could have just been 18.
I think the actress was 18. It doesn't matter.
She was. We talked about this before. We talked about this probably a lot of times.
Yeah, it drives me batshit insane, honestly. So do Ghost Riders age? Do we think?
I mean, I guess it's like a certain point they just stop.
Because he is invincible. He keeps doing these stunts, and that's the whole prologue. Which actually, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. We haven't really talked about that. Is that he's like doing these more and more death-defying stunts to like feel something because he can't die, and he's like figured that out. So he's invincible to harm, but obviously does age, and then they must stop at a certain point. But then we get the reveal from Sam Elliott that they have like a limited number of transformations into Ghost Rider.
Maybe that's what it. Maybe like being like the Ghost Rider powers keeps them alive, and it just maybe ages them slower after a certain point. And then after you keep using it up, you die.
It's a real shame that we didn't get Ghost Rider 3, because I think this is the kind of questions that would have been explored in the trilogy.
Yeah, a real shame we did not get Ghost Rider 3. I think Ghost Rider 2 might be worse than Ghost Rider 1.
Oh, for sure it is. For sure.
Which is, wow. Maybe we should have just done that one.
I think that one's harder to do. Yeah, maybe we should have. But I just want to talk about.
We'll come back around. We'll come back around to that at some point.
Maybe. I don't want to make any promises.
Whatever. It'll be funny.
All right, Corey. Let's take a break and then we'll come back and
Sounds
we'll
good.
remake this movie, but good this time.
Whew, it's warm in here.
Warm?
Yeah, I'm burning up. Aren't you?
Little.
You want a cigarette? Okay. Mind if I do?
Okay, that was weird.
Look, Johnny, I'm not asking for your help. I'm asking you to help yourself.
I watch a lot of TV, and I know what you're doing. Good cop, bad cop. But you're both good cops. And you provide a very, very important civil service. In fact, when I finish my stunt career, I intend to apply my skills to being a motorcycle policeman. So I'd love to help you. But I didn't kill anybody.
Jesus. Who you trying to convince, Johnny? Us or yourself?
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, so you've stepped into the production offices of Bishop and Shabazz, and you've brought us your script. That's not true. That's not how this works. We have the script writer. I don't really remember how the narrative works. We're remaking this movie for 2021, but good, and also in a universe where this movie never existed. So this is a Ghost Rider doesn't exist, and we're just making it good this time. Corey, do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I can go first.
All right, so Corey, first up on the docket. Whenever you're ready, just jump into it.
So here's my plan for this. We're not going to do a movie because I kind of want to make something a bit more bloated than what a movie could contain.
I think you could use a slightly different word, but fair enough.
Hey, fuck it. Now I'm gonna. Like, I feel like this movie didn't do anything with its time, and I kind of want to do a lot with what I have.
It's 2 hours long, and I feel like nothing happened. It's so weird.
So basically, I want to do like a 4 to 5 episode miniseries, just one self-contained, get through one season, have it done. I'm gonna come with it. So my director and my writer are gonna be Guillermo del Toro. I want to come with it the same energy that Blade 2 and Hellboy had. I want it to be like the spiritual successor to those. And I want to like have much more time to kind of lay the groundwork in. I want to have that kind of funky backdrop. I feel like Del Toro gives a very, very like cool setting, and he like has great set designs. And I feel like we're gonna have a lot of fun, especially playing with like whatever in between we can do between like hell and earth. Did I already say the name of my thing? I don't think I did.
No.
Maybe not. Okay, so instead of just doing a singular Ghost Rider, I'm gonna include a bunch of them from the comics. So I'm calling it Ghost Riders,
which is the name of a comic book, right? That came out last year.
There might have
been
been
a Riders book, yeah.
And I'm sure, yeah, there might have been one, but yeah, like I mean, there's so many characters doing Ghost Rider that, and I think like watching the first one was just like, oh, this is fun because there's 2 Ghost Riders, a cowboy one, and then
only
there's
get for like 30 seconds of the movie.
for like 30 seconds, but I'm like, this is my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
I want more of this, and so what I'm doing now is this: I'm gonna have Johnny Blaze still be our main character, and I'm gonna get him portrayed by Glenn Powell, who most recently was the dickhead in Top Gun. I'm having another Ghost Rider, Alejandra Jones, played by Sofia Boutella, who, I mean, like, I really don't want to say The Mummy is most recently I know her from, but she's been in other things as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's probably the thing that she's most famous for, unfortunately.
And from Why the Last Man, Ben Schnitzer, sorry guys, who's playing Danny Ketch, who's honestly just like a knockoff Johnny Blaze. He's going to be a lesser character, honestly, but he's just going to be there. Keeping Sam Elliott, of course. And I'm bringing Robbie Reyes, the most recent from the comics Ghost Rider. Gonna get him portrayed by Pedro Pascal. And the supporting character for him will be played by Zolo Maraduena, who's most famously from Cobra Kai. I think my plan for this is to kind of have some kind of subplot to have the Ghost Riders be pit against each other until eventually they're faced off against the devil, played by Lakeith Stanfield.
Who I love that pick. Has still not played a villain, but I think he would make a great villain. Although I guess he's sort of a villain in The Harder They Fall, but
like I don't want to give him like kind of like enough like room to kind of chew up the scenery.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what would be like a fun like kind of like instead of like old man devil? So I feel like it'd be very fun to kind of play along with like this younger personality where like he's kind of just very good at jabbing and like really good at comedic, especially bouncing off a lot of people who were kind of done like very good at doing very serious moments.
Yeah.
And I think maybe like kind of like I just kind of thought about this, but having like the comedic relief in a sense be essentially the antagonist, I think that works very well too. And another idea, which I didn't necessarily cast somebody as like Blackheart or whatever, would maybe to be like have all these Ghost Riders go against Blackheart and the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. So you have 2 teams going against each other. So like Blackheart has his team, and the Devil has his team.
Yeah.
And then at the end we can figure out somewhere to go with that. But I think you can have a bunch of different characters. You have And then, like, I think each of these Ghost Riders, I mean, obviously you have Robbie with a car and Johnny Blaze with a bike, and we could kind of play along with it and have, like, maybe different vehicles, different whatevers, and just kind of just go along with it. Let's see how fucking weird you can make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my pitch, man.
Yeah, I love it. I do love it. That's the worst part about these, like, doing these pitches, is that I like, want to see these movies and TV shows exist, and we just never will get a chance to.
No, I mean, one day whenever we actually do reach the pinnacle of Hollywood development, we'll just probably be so soulless that we'll just be like, fuck it.
We'll be making Ghost Rider 3 starring Nicolas Cage. That's what we'll be doing. Yeah, I love that. I especially love Lakeith Stanfield as the devil. I think that's a really cool idea. All right, I'll give my pitch now. So,
Let's do it.
first up for me, the director, I have Drew Goddard, Drew Goddard, who has not done like a ton of movies. Actually, he is. I picked him because he's done Bad Times at the El Royale and Cabin in the Woods, 2 movies that are sort of like the exact same like tone that I'd be going for. I think Bad Times at the El Royale is like a unfairly maligned movie that I think is really fantastic. It gets I think all the critical reviews I saw of it that were negative were like, oh, it's stealing too much from like Tarantino and Brian De Palma and Hitchcock. And it's like, yeah, that was the idea. Like, they made good fucking movies. Why not jack from the legends? I think that movie has like this weird, creepy, but also really funny and fun tone that I think would work for Ghost Rider. I think Ghost Rider, for it to be really effective, has to be dark. And Bad Times at the El Royale and Cabin in the Woods both have great fast-paced action in dark and funny movies, and also, coincidentally, didn't realize this until just now, both star Chris Hemsworth. So yeah, I like Drew Goddard.
And
here.
also just as looking at, like, I mean, also because you are using him as director, I just want to give a shout out to him that he does have a pretty rich experience as a writer in a lot of like superhero stuff as well. So, and I'm looking at his like, writing credits right now.
He's got something big coming up, doesn't he?
He got Project Hail Mary, which is the Andy Weir most recent novel, which I highly recommend.
Yeah.
But also the Sinister Six movie, but let's not talk about that. Let's keep moving.
I mean, there's still a chance that movie isn't trash. No, okay, it's not true.
So,
but it won't be his fault. It won't be his fault when that movie's bad.
If Sinister Six is good, I will pay you $100.
Oh, okay, sure, I'll take that. I'll take that bet.
if it's good, I'll give you $100.
It won't be good, so I won't be getting that $100 anytime soon. I know it won't be good because that after credit scene in Morbius is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in a movie.
I think it's Spider-Man or something, man. Intriguing.
Yeah, but like you said, Drew Goddard has a lot of writing credits, especially on his own movies. I think he wrote and directed Bad Times at the El Royale. So I think co-writing with him, so Drew Goddard and Scott Frank, who is probably most famous now for Logan, but is the screenwriter behind Out of Sight, Minority Report, and Get Shorty, 3 of my absolute favorite movies. The movies are great. And mostly tonally, like I said, I think Logan is more akin to what I'm looking for. But Out of Sight also has this like neo-noir thriller element that I think will be really effective here. And Minority Report and Get Shorty are just 2 really well-written movies. Not really like the tone or genre I'd be going for, but that's okay. He clearly has a very wide range of talent here. So, yeah, my writing directing team is Drew Goddard and Scott Frank, and starring in the movie. So, unlike Corey, I have no intention of keeping around the Blackheart storyline. So, my main 3 cast will be Johnny Blaze, played by Taron Egerton, who has just been like stuck in my head recently because I've been watching, since Wrapped, I've been watching his most recent show called Blackbird, which is a show I think based on a true story about a like drug kingpin who gets sent to prison, and he gets a deal from the FBI that the way he can get out of prison is by befriending, because he's like this really charismatic guy. He can befriend this serial killer, and if he can convince the serial killer to tell him where he's hid a bunch of bodies, they will let him out of prison early. The show is great, unrelated. You should watch it. It's got Ray Liotta's I guess one of his final performances, rest in peace, and he's fucking fantastic in it. One of my favorite Ray Liotta performances ever. Like, it might be number 2 to Goodfellas. I might that's blasphemous but I think it's so good. And Taron Egerton is incredible in this show, and his like witty, tongue-in-cheek, like sort of like smarmy, but you can't help but love him, is like the kind of Ghost Rider I really want. Like this guy who's like fast talking, but ultimately not a good guy.
Yeah, I kind of wanted that whole like I want to punch you in the face kind
Yeah.
of like mentality for my guy as well.
Yeah. And obviously Egerton has like a lot of range. I mean, he just fucking played Elton John. Like he can do a little bit, but he also has it in him to be like a real dickhead, which I think is
I
great.
mean, we did notice that first half of Kingsman, he's just like,
Yeah. It's just,
even the entire movie, he's just a lovable jackass, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then my devil, Thomas Brody Sangster, who I think in this movie, I think the idea of having them both be like the same age and like Brody Sangster being like timeless, like we see him in the flashbacks with Carter Slade, who I still with you. I still think Samuel would stick around. He's still acting today, but still as this like young sort of like creepy guy. And what I'm picturing really is his performance in Queen's Gambit turned up to 11. Like this really, like you can't really get a grip on whether or not he's good or evil until it flips, and then you're like, oh, he's like a shitlord. Great, love it. And last but not least, my main cast, Roxanne Simpson, played by Rosaline Elbay, who is a relative new face, I think, to a lot of American audiences. I think if you had seen her, she would have been the cousin in Rami. She's a British Egyptian actress who is mostly still like now working in Egypt and does a lot of like Arabic movies, but she's fucking incredible in Rami, and she's done some like off-Broadway stuff. She's a great actress. I just think like having some new blood, and you sort of need a character that you believe Johnny Blaze would go fight the fucking devil for, and she's got a vibe about her. And I think that'd be really effective. And last but not least, I think Mac is still a really effective character, although I think he's absolutely misused in this movie. But I think you need a comic relief, even in a really dark movie, which is what I'm going for. I wanted Langston Kerman. I think Langston Kerman is great. He was just recently.
Gotta have a comic relief who you kill. You gotta kill him. They gotta die.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about how Mac is unceremoniously dispatched this movie.
I know. I think I left out my favorite moments where Johnny Blaze watches him like Mac looks up and he just forgets about it. Never talked about. It
is true. He's not mentioned 1 second after he's dead. Basically, it's crazy.
And I get even Mendes is on the ground, but it's just very funny. He's like they took her. You could be like they killed my best friend, but it's like they took her. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, he's known Mac like
much. Yeah.
For like he spent more time with Mac. They've been on the
Absolutely.
road together for years since his
Like
dad
they hang out
died.
at this house all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, rough for my boy Mac. But yeah, Langston Kerman, who most people will probably recognize from Insecure, but he was also, like I said, he's also in Bust Down, a show from earlier this year that I thought was really funny, and he's got like a really great dry humor that I really love in a comedic relief character. And also this need some black people in my movie, so what are you gonna do? But yeah, that's our cast. So I'll quickly run down my cast and creative team again. We got Drew Goddard as writer director, along with Scott Frank as co-writing, Johnny Blaze played by Taron Egerton, Roxanne played by Rosaline Elbay, The Devil by Thomas Brody Sangster, Carter Slade as Sam Elliott returning, and Mac / possibly rewriting a comic relief friend as Langston Kerman. And Corey, do you want to run down yours really quick before we move on to the final category?
Sure thing. I got as writer and director for Ghost Riders, I got Guillermo del Toro. Johnny Blaze will be played by Glenn Powell. Alejandro Jones, another Ghost Rider, will be played by Sophia Boutella. Danny Ketch, played by Ben Schnurzer. I'm so sorry. The Devil, played by Lakeith Stanfield. Robbie Reyes, played by Pedro Pascal. Robbie Reyes' brother, played by Zolo Mariduena. I don't remember that kid's name. I just forgot to put it down. And Carter Slade, played by Sam Elliott.
Both great movies / TV shows. I think
Young Reyes' brother.
Young Reyes' brother.
The one who dies. I'm kidding.
All right, and it is time to close it out with our final new category, but I'm hoping will be a real successful mainstay, and that is the question that we ask at the end of all these bad movie clubs. But, Corey, is it worse than The Room?
No.
So The Room, legendary terrible movie, of course. Tommy Wiseau's cult classic at this point. Often considered the worst movie of all time. Spawned one of my favorite movies of the last few years, The Disaster Artist, which is about the making of the Room. And we will ask, as always, is this worse than The Room? And I think Corey and I are both in agreement. Obviously not.
I don't want to have to rewatch The Room to get a refresher, but I feel like I might have to. It's been like 3 years.
The Room has a very little. I say very little. It has basically no redeeming qualities and a weird amount of sex. I did not remember how much sex was this movie
A
until I
long
rewatched
amount
it.
of sex. I think it's
So
It's just so strange.
Yeah, this movie is not worse than The Room. I look forward to the day where we finally find a movie that's worse than The Room. Do you think? We've been doing this for a lot. For almost 5 years, we've been doing this bad movie rewatch. Have we done a movie yet that's worse than The Room? I don't know. I don't remember all the movies either, but
I don't think so. I don't think we've gotten anything structurally as bad as The Room.
I think the closest for me is still Dungeons and Dragons, which I think is the worst movie we've ever done.
That's definitely up there.
But I don't think Dungeons and Dragons is worse than The Room.
No, I
either.
think Dungeons and Dragons is still like not The Room.
No.
Yeah.
So on that note, we basically decided that Ghost Rider, in comparison to The Room, is a masterpiece.
Yes.
And a couple points of business, of course, before we leave. Don't forget, if you're reading along, our book club for next month is going to be Miss Marvel Volume 1 by G. Willow Wilson. And announcing now, our next Curse of the Rewatch is going to be, I think, our first ever Boll movie. Boll, infamous German filmmaker who just makes truly god-awful video game movies. We will be doing one of his worst movies ever, House of the Dead. A movie that I loved as a kid. I dragged my dad to it. I remember specifically we were leaving. I was like, that movie was so fun. And my dad was like, I hate my child. I cannot believe he's made me do this. So apologies to my father. I'm sure that was a torturous experience. Anything else to say about Ghost Rider, Corey?
Don't watch it if you guys are curious.
Yeah, don't do it to yourself.
If you guys want to watch a good Ghost Rider experience, just go find the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes. It's much better. It's much better. Don't
forget, rate us 5 stars on all your podcast platforms. Drop us a review. It really helps us out. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if you are listening to the podcast, go over there and just, check out a video or two. They're a good time.
I also want to reiterate that if you leave us a 5-star review, I will read whatever you write down.
Don't say
on
whatever.
air.
Just say it.
Whatever.
Say a different thing. Don't say whatever you write down.
Whatever you do.
Corey will say that so that I can get clipped out. And
It's at random. It's not everybody. I'm just saying at random. I will pick one.
All right, fair enough.
At random.
All right, well, I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Sweet Christmas.